पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीय मामृतात्। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे। Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to all be together. Wonderful. And a beautiful welcome also to our family joining us from all over the world through the internet, joining us on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching. Beautiful. Welcome to you, and we feel you with us. We know you're with us. So a very special welcome to you all as well. And beginning as usual with actually we have a different question to begin with this evening, a different in advance question. Usually we begin with one that comes in from those not with us, who are joining us from all over the world, who send in questions online. But today I actually had a question that was given to me in person, but requested that the asker should not have to ask it publicly. So I promised that we would start with that one. And it was a question about finding our path. How do we find the path that we're supposed to walk? There's so many different paths. Whether we look at different spiritual paths, whether we look at different career paths, whether we are looking at either the spiritual path or the career path, so many different paths. And how do we choose? How do we know? It's important to realize that depending on how you walk them, all paths can take you to God. It's not that you get one chance in your life to find the one path, and that path goes to God. All paths go to God if we walk them walking toward God. But that's up to us. And so it's not about this career or that career. You can get there being the CEO of a company. You can get there being the window washer. You can get there being very wealthy. You can get there being very poor. As long as whatever you are doing it with the attention and intention of walking toward God and walking toward your path, your Dharma. That's what matters. Now, when we're looking to find our right path, this is where we turn to what we think of as our intuition. Most of us think that we only are able to know by 5 senses. But the truth is, we've actually got what sometimes we call a 6th sense, but it's not just one sense. It's all sorts of ways of knowing. A sound, a sight, a feeling that we call intuition. That intuition guides us on where we're supposed to walk. But that doesn't mean that in every minute and every moment your intuition is going to speak and say, turn right here, turn left here, be still here, Sortaj Bajo. Go left, go right, stand here. Sometimes we have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You choose a path. Seems like the right one for now. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. And if you know along the way that somehow another door opens that says turn here, we turn. This is what being open is about, and this is why we need to stay open. It's very rare that people get in one flash, this is my life's purpose, this is my Dharma, this is what I'm meant to do, this is the path I'm supposed to walk. And then for the next 60, 70, 80 years, they never have any questions. That's very rare. Almost never. What happens is we're at a certain phase and we make a choice. And we may make the choice in the right way, or we may make the choice in the wrong way. Doesn't matter. What matters is that once we've made that choice, how can we use that situation we now are in to walk closer to our true self? Whether you're in India, whether you're in America, whether you're in France, whether you're in Russia, whether you're in Australia, wherever you are right now, whatever job you're doing right now, whatever relationship you're in right now, how can you use that to walk closer to God? And as you're walking, remember we're staying open. We're staying open to intuition. So as we walk, is there a sign? Is there a signal? Is there an intuition from inside that says, turn right here, turn left, stop? We listen. And I always say that everything in nature has that. It's how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, right? It's crawling along the ground one day. It's only crawled along the ground its entire life. It knows nothing other than crawling along the ground. But one day, it hears a voice, or there's a signal, or a sign, whatever it is that caterpillars experience. And suddenly, it knows to climb the tree. And as it's climbing the tree then, it hears another signal, gets another sign, another voice that says, now go out on a branch. Now weave yourself into a cocoon. And then eventually, after sitting in that cocoon for some time, very still, there's another sign or another voice that says, now jump. You can fly. It's the same way that a seed sprouts into a flower, into a tree. Somehow inside of it there's a sign. Or that a baby chick bursts out of an egg. Right? Everything in nature has a way of knowing what it's supposed to do next, even if it's never done it. No baby chick has ever seen anybody else burst out of an egg. Right? He's just been born. He's lived in the egg his entire life. No videos showing him, no schooling, no manual, no become a chick training program. Same with the caterpillar and butterfly. The caterpillar's never seen a butterfly be created. I don't think there's any way that the caterpillar knows that when caterpillars go up the tree, that the things flying around are the new incarnation of the caterpillar that went up the tree. I don't think they have brains that are that developed. So even though in all these circumstances, it's never seen anyone else do it, no manual, no training program, no videos, but nonetheless, there's just a knowing. And then there is a courageous following of the knowing. And that's equally important. So to know your path, we need, number one, to be still and quiet enough that you can hear that voice. If we're moving 1 billion miles an hour, multitasking all day long, constantly with every spare moment scrolling social media, likes, comments, notifications. From the moment we wake up in the morning to the moment we go to sleep at night. If there's no stillness in the mind, we could miss that voice. We could miss that signal. Miss that sign that says, climb the tree. And so we need to first be still. It's not just in the body, it's in the mind. But stillness in the body sometimes helps create stillness in the mind. It's why most people meditate sitting in one place rather than jogging on a treadmill. You could do it. And it's not that God's not available when you're jogging. But nonetheless, there's a stillness of body and mind that for most people makes it easier to connect with that inner divinity. So number one, we become still and quiet. Number two, we have to have courage and faith. If the caterpillar, when he heard the voice or got the sign, said, nah, I don't climb trees. I would fall. I'm afraid of heights. What's going to happen to me? What if I can't hold on? I'll fall, I'll die. All the other caterpillars will laugh at me if I'm still alive. I'll be humiliated. It'll be a total disaster. Or if when it's in the cocoon and it's now time to burst forth and fly, if the caterpillar says, no way, I can't fly. I don't have it in me. I'm the crawl on the ground sort. And if the caterpillar then, or the caterpillar now become a butterfly, refused to fly and tried to crawl its way back down the branch and crawled its way back down the tree, it would miss the opportunity to fly. So we've got to have that courage that I'm getting a sign. And by a sign, by the way, I don't mean what some influencer you follow on social media happened to be doing today. Right? Doesn't mean that good things can't come out of that. When I was in 3rd grade, we had a costume day at our school. And there was a girl in the 4th or 5th grade who I completely idolized. I just thought she was the best. And I always wanted to do everything she did. And in the costume day at school, she came dressed in a karate uniform. And I went home that night, and for some reason that, 40 plus years later, I still can't figure out, I didn't tell my parents that I wanted a karate uniform, which really was all I wanted because that was what she had. But instead I told them I want to take karate classes. I think I was afraid that if I said I just wanted a uniform, they would think that was silly. So I told them I wanted to take karate classes. Okay, and it turns out it actually worked wonderfully. I was one of the youngest female black belts in LA at 15. So I mention that because back in the 1970s, she was the equivalent of an influencer. She was the one I was looking up to. Okay, what does she eat for lunch? What does she wear? How does she do her hair? And I just wanted to do whatever she did. So in that case, it worked out okay. But in terms of life paths, when we're talking about intuition and signs and signals, let them come from within. It's not what some popular person who you follow is doing. That may be their path. But for your path, it's got to be an internal intuition. And when that comes, you've got to have the courage to walk it. And the faith in the divine who has sent you this intuition. In that true self, that true capital S self. Who knows? We have faith in that. And we start moving accordingly. And then once we start moving, again, as we walk, there may be other signals, other signs that say, now you turn. And again, you don't want to be stuck and say, oh, no, this is the path I'm supposed to walk. Well, maybe you were supposed to walk it so that you would hear the next voice. Like for me, there was so much in my life that led up to me coming to India that if it weren't meant to lead up to me being in India, it makes no sense at all. I could look back and say, well, why did I do this? Why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? Standing alone, they make no sense. But they make perfect sense when I realize, I was supposed to do each of these things because they were together guiding me to come here. So you have faith in that inner wisdom. I've never heard of anyone on their deathbed saying, God, I wish I had not listened to my own self. I wish I had not trusted my intuition. I wish I had not had courage. I wish I had not had faith. I wish I just had done whatever the neighbors did. I've never heard of anybody saying that. But you do hear the opposite. You do hear people say, God, I wish I had listened to my intuition. I wish I hadn't just done what everyone on my block growing up did, what everyone in my high school did, what everyone in my university did. I wish I had had the courage to chart my own path. So we find the path, comes to us, and by the way, If it hasn't come to you or any piece of it yet, don't worry. In this moment, if you're one of those people looking for your path, in this moment, just check in with your heart. Where is my heart pulling me? What path? Whether it's a university decision you're making, a career decision you're making, what feels not the most glamorous, not the most romantic, not the one that's going to make everyone jealous, not the one that's going to keep the neighbors happy, but actually the one that makes your heart feel, yeah, that. And then you'll notice something very interesting happens. The moment you feel that, almost immediately, there's a voice in your head that says, no, not that path, because you won't make enough money. Everyone will laugh at you. What'll happen if you fail? That's the voice you need to become free of. Acknowledge it. Thank it for trying to take care of you. But then let it know that, I've got it from here. And trust your heart. Trust your heart. Yeah, you may not make that much money. People might laugh. You might fail. But at the end of the day, you are going to know that you are walking in alignment with your truth. And that's actually the greatest success. And also the greatest joy. Becoming a success in something that isn't your heart, but that you just did because you were supposed to do it, is not the stuff that life's happiness is made of. So let that intuition work. Beautiful. Does anyone here have a question? Yes.
Hi, Sadhviji. I leave tomorrow, so I'm so grateful I get to ask you this question. It's about the role of intervening on other people's actions in their lives. I really try not to ever do that with friends, family, others. My question is it ever right to do that when there's an innocent being who isn't able to protect themselves? An example of that came across 2 days ago. I was going down in a little alley to Ganga, and a dog popped out of this cage and wanted attention. So I stuck my fingers through, and this dog, I could tell, was deprived of love and hungry because the ribs were exposed. And so I petted and found some food, and it was owned by a family. I asked the neighborhood people, the locals, I sensed that dog was in there all the time. And they said yes, all the time, every day, all day. And I said, who owns it? And they said, the family right there. And if they were working, I would totally understand, busy. But they were actually, the whole family was there in an area that could be, it was enclosed that the dog could be in. So I visited the dog since then. I spoke to them. I thought, well, let me just non-judgmentally raise the inquiry. And they basically dismissed me. So in the days since then, every time I see the dog is, feverishly hungry, thirsty. I put water, this dog is suffering and is underfed and does not leave the cage for days, probably weeks or months, according to the people nearby. I have a very deep temptation to break the dog free. There's a couple of concerns. One, I feel like they're going to get the dog back and then punish the dog, so I don't want that to happen. And then two, the spiritual question. So my question to you is, assuming that the dog wasn't ever found, and I'm not asking for permission to break in and remove the dog, don't worry, but is it ever spiritually, morally right, because I also understand it's God. Maybe God is in control of all of it, so for me to intervene, I'm probably intervening on God. So there's all these questions that are swirling. So the question is it ever spiritually and or morally right to intervene and possibly violate someone else's rights in order to protect an innocent being?
Beautiful. It's absolutely okay, absolutely right. And in some cases, I would even say absolutely mandatory to intervene. I mean, imagine that instead of a hungry, thirsty, but otherwise safe dog in a cage, not to make it okay, but we're just going to draw a comparison. If instead of that, you were walking down the street and you saw someone raping someone. I mean, if you were walking down the road and you saw somebody grab a young girl and start to rape her, or even grab an older woman and start to rape her, of course we would have to intervene. And so, from the dog to the woman, to world hunger, to global warming, to indigenous rights, to human rights, it's actually incumbent upon each of us to act and to intervene. As humans, at this particular intersection of time and space, we cannot even feign to consider ourselves spiritual people if we've decided I'm just going to sit this one out. That somehow my highest goal is just to find peace in the midst of what is happening in our world. Spiritually, the goal is twofold. Number one, and they should go together. It's not either or, it's both. Number one, through our spiritual practice, our meditation, our jap, our seva, our prayers, our yoga, we are anchored and grounded and connected to the perfection of the universe. So we are not stressed, tense, freaked out. Oh my God, what if I don't? And yet, so that's piece one. And then we take that piece with us as we stand up off the cushion, off the mat, and we act in the world. So it's not, am I in peace or am I actively engaged? It's yes and, not either or. And in order to be effective in our active engagement, we have to have the spiritual grounding. We have to have the awareness on some level that, yes, I am meant to serve and work as much as I can. And yes, everything is perfect. And in that perfection is me being called to serve all of the things that need so much work and so much help on our planet today. And they sound paradoxical, of course, but for me, one of the great spiritual teachings and practices is what I think of as creating space. Most of us have kind of narrow ways of understanding things. Either everything's perfect, or everything's going to hell. Right? It's got it one or the other. So either we say, okay, it's all God, there's nothing but God. It is perfect, the rest is an illusion. At which point, don't worry about the dog, don't worry about the woman being raped, don't worry about climate change or world hunger, because it's all perfect. And anyway, it's all illusion anyway. So why bother? That is the ignorance of half or a very small percentage of an understanding. When we are told and taught it's all perfect, it's all divine, that doesn't mean, so go ahead and sit this one out. It means your heart breaking when it sees a dog who is hungry. Your instinct, your initiative, your compassion, your innovation, going to work when we see children who are poor, people who are starving, our planet being destroyed. That's part of the perfection. And so we recognize the problems in the world. It's not that we don't. But along with it, it's not just everything's going to hell, which the result then tragically brings you to the exact same place as the result if you think everything is perfect, which is, well, if everything's going to hell, what's the point of doing anything anyway? I can't possibly fix climate change and world hunger and domestic violence and gender-based violence and human rights abuses and discrimination. So you're back in exactly the same place, which is sit this one out. And that's never the answer. And if we're ever confused about whether it's the answer, we just pick up our copy of the Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagawan Krishna reminds us over and over and over again that we are called upon to stand up and act with righteousness, with integrity, with nonviolence, with truth, with love, with an awareness of oneness. And while you are acting, don't forget the perfection of it all. It's like that very core famous teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, remember me and fight the war. Remember me and fight the war. So you being called upon to intervene is beautiful, as long as you can keep your ego out of it. Because the dilemma becomes we get very identified with, I am the savior. I am kind of the, superhero of compassion over here. And see, I've got my cape. And I'm just going to go around and I'm going to right all of the wrongs. I'm the doer. I'm the fixer. I'm that superhero. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be spiritually. Instead, let me offer you the possibility of simple gratitude to the divine that says something like, in your own words, with your own bhav, something like, thank you, God, for using me as the instrument to help this dog. Thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity, the resources, the intelligence, the compassion to allow your action to flow through me. Thank you for choosing me today as the vehicle of compassion, of love, of service. And as far as a prayer, it's a beautiful prayer every morning. Oh God, use me. Let me be an empty, hollow channel through which your divinity flows. Flow through me. Let me be a vehicle for you here on earth. And then that enables us to do the action without getting stuck in the ego. But yes, we are absolutely called to intervene. Again, it doesn't mean we don a cape and, roam through the neighborhood looking for wrongs to right. But it's a beautiful prayer, and we certainly every day have the opportunity in small ways or big ways to intervene. Whether it's something as direct as the dog in the cage, or whether it's something that's got a ripple impact that we may not necessarily see immediately, like choosing to eat vegetarian, choosing to buy organic, choosing to buy fair trade, choosing to use products that are not made from animals, tested on animals, that are not produced with child labor or women in sweatshops, that are not produced in factories that are spewing their waste into the air, into the soil, into the water. That's also a way of intervening. And so sometimes you'll be given the opportunity to do it in a very direct way where you see the impact. And sometimes you may not see the impact, but you know it. You trust it. You know that there is a divine ripple, and it's happening. Beautiful. I thought you were going to ask if you could intervene and bring your wife. Wonderful.
Pranam. I don't know, probably I got few answers during this conversation of yours, during this enlightenment of yours. But I still want to ask this question. I've been following a practice since childhood, what I've learned from my mom, that make sure that you continue to pray. And I had been doing this. And during this pandemic, probably I thought, I could be wrong out here. I thought I've been evolved. Probably I got more connected to that Almighty. And I kept on reading something, and I kept on hearing something, and I somehow got connected to Him. But all of a sudden, my graph from last 1 month came down. I don't know what has happened. And I feel like there is no blessing anymore from His side. Is it this what I've been, introspecting or probably thinking about myself. And I was just thinking that I was going in the right direction. I was getting connected to Him. And all of a sudden, I don't know what has happened because I'm not able to get connected anymore. I try, because before that, I was getting up early in the morning, and that though I've been doing it throughout my life, I still do, but I think I'm getting lazy now. I am, probably that blessing is not anymore these days. I've been pushing myself, so though I could get answer, which when you told me when you're doing something wrong, it's better to, just stop, hold yourself, silent, observe that silent, and let that thing probably, is it the right approach, what I've just learned from you? Or
So it's definitely the right approach if your path is not right. But God has not gone anywhere. God has not left you. God was not available earlier, but now not available. Chuti pe to nahi gaye. ठीक है? It's not like office band hai, right? God's doors are always open. Always, 24/7. God is always available. So if you find, but it's very common. It's actually what you're experiencing is very common. You should not worry about it. If you talk to any deep spiritual seeker, what you'll hear in almost every case is these powerful, powerful experiences of connection. And then there seem to be these periods where it seems like God has gone someplace. And we're just not able to connect. And this is very common, so do not feel like you've done something wrong. It happens. I like to think of it, to me, as God testing us. God testing us. How much do you still love me when you can't see me? How much do you still love me when it seems like I've gone away? Do you only love me when I'm front and center? Or do you also love me if you can't see me right away? And so I think about it. I can't tell you for sure that this is why it happens, but this is just my internal sense, is that it's God actually making us stronger. Because to be connected to God, when that connection is right there and it's palpable and you feel it and it's every minute and every moment and it's juicy and tears are pouring down your face, that's exquisite. But it's easy to stay connected in those days. It's easy to keep loving God in those days. But when you close your eyes to meditate and it seems like nothing happens, when you pray and it seems like nothing happens, as you mentioned, you're getting lazy about getting up in the morning, it makes sense. We start to lose faith. But I actually think about those times as God testing us. How strong are we? How much are we able to withstand and bear in God's name? And so what I would say is, don't let yourself get lazy. Keep getting up. Keep meditating. Keep praying. And if you feel like God isn't there, talk to God. I think about Paramahansa Ramakrishna, the amazing, enlightened saint, sage, mystic from early last century. And if you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, if you read about his life, you'll find how many times he said to God, "What's happening?" I mean, how many times he got mad at the mother, not eating his food, not responding to him. I'm not saying go home and get angry at God, but I'm saying if you feel like God isn't there, talk to God. You've got a connection, you've got a relationship. It's like you feel like something's going on with your wife. Maybe she's having an affair, maybe she doesn't love you anymore. But instead of talking to her, you come and talk to me. Talk to her. So if you feel like you're disconnected from God, talk to God. What's happened? Where have you gone? I miss you. I feel miserable without you. Be honest. Cry if you feel like crying. But tell God. And what you may find is that in that open-heartedness, you feel God again. That as you are talking to God, you feel God there. And another last beautiful way is there's so many ways to connect to God. As your mom said, prayer is a beautiful way to talk to God, to connect with God. And there's other ways as well. Through service, through serving others, seeing God in them, through chanting jap, mantra. There's other ways also of connecting. So you may want to start try some other paths, try some mantra jap, try some seva. See what else you can do to feel connected. Sit on the banks of Ganga, open-eyed meditation, just watching the river flow. Feel that presence of the Mother Goddess. Maybe God will stop feeling like a he for a while and feel like a she for a while. Who knows? But just allow that presence to be there, rather than getting your mind fixed on, I'm no longer connected to God, God's gone away, the well has dried up. Because then you're just creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then every time you sit down to pray, it's like, the well's dried up. God's not there. So give it a rest for a little while. Try something different. And talk directly to God. And know God has not gone anywhere. If you are disconnected, it's because something in you has happened that has, maybe unconsciously, made you pull away from God. Ego comes in, attachments come in, identities come in. Sometimes simply even over-intellectualizing what's happening. I always tell people, when you are meditating, or in moments of ecstasy, moments of awakening, the brain is going to come in and to try to say, oh, this must be samadhi. Or, oh, this must be that. Don't let it do that. Stay nonverbal. Because the moment the mind comes in and starts to tell a story, you've lost the experience. So if you had this extraordinary time during COVID of being so connected, if the mind comes in, oh, now this is happening, that's happening, I'm experiencing this, and you start putting all these words on it and a whole identity around it, the experience itself starts to dissipate. Okay? Beautiful. We're going to close a bit early this evening because we have a very special musical program that's just starting in a few minutes. Our beautiful group of Namami Gange musical group program with singers, with musicians, with poets. It's a very beautiful 2-night program, tonight and tomorrow. So they're starting at 7:30, so I want to give them good 15 minutes to get things set up on the stage. But have a beautiful rest of your evening. Beautiful morning and day to those joining us online from all over the world. And I look so forward to seeing you all Seeing you all tomorrow.